both follow-ups to maybe our working group meetings. It may tease kind of what we will be doing at the following working group meeting, or sometimes it's just general information kind of in our knowledge corner about things that are happening. So we hope you all take advantage of that. So our goal is always each and every month to have some communication with the working group and with the public about things that are happening in the 5 Points area. So for those members of the public who maybe this is your first time with us, these meetings are designed for the working group members. However, these are public meetings and we certainly welcome and enjoy having members of the public. Your participation will be to listen and observe, but also if you would like to make a public comment, we do save time at the end of the meeting for any member of the public to make a short statement or comment about what we're doing with this working group, with this 5 Points working group. The way to do that is to use the Q&A field in the Cisco WebEx platform. At least for me, I see it on the right underneath all of the names. So just click on that and just say what your name is and that you'd like to make a public comment, and we will put you on that list. So Jeff, I know I went a little out of order, but why don't you come back up to the agenda and I'll go through that. So we will obviously have our introduction. We do have 4 certainly very important but shorter kind of updates that we're going to talk to you about. We are going to have a brief welcome from Nicole Majeski, who's the Deputy Secretary for DelDOT, and I will formally introduce her in a second. We'll have a Henlopen TID, Transportation Improvement District update. We will present a map of all the active projects and studies in the area. And we also will give an update on the Mulberry Knoll Road extension. So those are areas of interest we know, and we will present those. Probably not take too long to do that. We then will have which is the main part of all of our working group meetings, which is the phase 2 implementation status update. Jeff Rigner will go through that. And then we do have a special presentation from Gene Donaldson, which will be a presentation on DelDOT's traffic and ITS work. And then, as I said, we will have public comment. So I'm just going to quickly, before I go to that, Jeff, just for the benefit of everyone, just kind of announce who we have right now from the working group that is in attendance. And if I miss someone can help me out. But we have DJ Hughes, we have Senator Lopez, we have Gail Van Gilder, we have IG Burton, Kim Stevenson, Bob Fisher, Representative Smick, we have Todd Lawson, we have Anne Marie Townsend. Am I missing anyone? Okay. So, and as we get as we get our members that do show up, I will do my best to announce that. So in terms of for the working group members, you have kind of, if you do want to ask a question, we do want you to try to use the raise the hand feature. You can see the slide that's on the screen right now, which shows that in a circle kind of on the bottom of your screen. That clicks on participants, which is how you will do that. So once you click on participants and see the list of participants, and then Jeff, go to the next slide, you see over in the right, underneath the names, you'll see a hand. It's hard to see, but it's there. You just click on that. In fact, I'm doing it right now. So if you were to go to my name, you'd see my hand is raised, and then I just click on it again to unraise my hand. That is the best way to let us know that you want to ask a question. If for some reason you're not seeing us recognize you, find an appropriate time to politely interrupt and get my attention, and we will obviously get your involvement in the meeting through your questions. Jeff, next slide. So we did send out to you a summary of your notebook materials that included the agenda, tonight's presentation, draft minutes of our July 27th working group meeting, which was the last working group meeting we had, a list of upcoming meetings, as well as the updated implementation plan. So that should all be in the packet that you can keep. We do want to approve our July 27th meeting minutes. So in doing that, the first thing I would do is just see if anyone has any questions or anything that they would like to make a comment on before I seek a motion and then go to approving those minutes. So I do not see any hands raised right now. So I'm going to assume that no one had any questions from our last meeting. So if one person could come off of mute, and maybe we'll make this our elected official special. Maybe one of our elected officials could come off and offer a motion and then a second.
This is Senator Lopez. I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay.
Representative Spick, second.
All right, that's great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that all the working group members are approving the minutes with a yay vote. If there is someone who wants to offer a no vote or abstain, I'd ask that you come off of mute and let me know that. And through your silence, I will assume that you are approving the minutes. So I'll give you a couple seconds to see if anyone comes off mute to abstain or to vote no. Okay, I don't see anyone doing that, so we will move the minutes forward as approved with those people those working group members who were in attendance. So at this point now, it is certainly my pleasure to welcome Nicole Majeski, who is the current Deputy Secretary at DelDOT, but she is Governor Carney's nominee to be the Transportation Cabinet Secretary. And so Nicole wanted to come, Deputy Secretary Majeski wanted to come and just speak to the working group and the public. And so it's to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay,
hi, everyone. As Andrew said, I'm Nicole Majeski. I'm the Deputy Secretary for the Delaware Department of Transportation. And as was mentioned, as you know, this week, Secretary Cohen will be retiring from state service, and I will become the acting secretary for a period of time until, if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed by the Senate next session. So I've had the pleasure of working with Jen for the last 9 years, and we are so grateful for her leadership and all that she has done for our agency and the state. And we are definitely going to miss her, but we are excited for her and her next adventure. So I did want to take a moment to thank all of you for all of your time, your participation, and your engagement in the working group, and to our staff, especially Jennifer Sinelli Miller and Josh Thomas, for all of their work in bringing all of this together for us. So we're really proud of this working group. It is because of the ideas and the input from the members and from the public that we've already been able to lay the groundwork for identifying dozens of improvements for the area, whether they're large or small, some that have already happened and some that are still to happen in the years to come. But we're really proud of the efforts that everyone has put forth to make this a success. I want to reiterate to all of you our full commitment to continuing our efforts in the 5 Points area and to our partnership with Sussex County. DelDOT has, and we continue to make improvements in our infrastructure throughout the state to make it a safer, more convenient place to travel for all of our visitors and for all of our residents. And in Sussex County, particularly, we have a ton of work that is planned. We have over $1.2 billion worth of work that's scheduled to happen over the next 6 years. So while there is no simple solution for the transportation issues that continue to grow in the 5 Points area, it is because of the work of this group to identify projects that have happened and will happen in the future that we are making efforts to make these improvements. So I know I know many of you. I've had the opportunity to meet many of you and work with many of you over the years, and so I'm looking forward to continuing those relationships, to meeting the new folks that I haven't had a chance to meet yet, spending time down in Sussex County and working with all of you and just continuing these efforts. So again, thank you for being here tonight, and I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion. So thanks, Andrew.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. That was great. And I do want to just let everyone know that Lloyd Schmitz, one of our working group members, has joined the meeting. So we're going to move on and going to turn it over to Mark Cote, who is the in charge of planning for DelDOT, who's going to give us an update on the Henlopen TID. Mark?
Yes, thank you, Andrew. So I'm Mark Cote. I'm the Director of Planning for DelDOT, and I just want to give a quick update on our Henlopen TID, as well as the MOU that was signed last month with Sussex County. And so the MOU has been completed, and we are now focusing our attention on the Henlopen TID, which was then presented at the October 6th County Council meeting, and we received some public comment there, but not too much. And we are hoping to present tomorrow. Well, we are presenting tomorrow, and we are hoping to then get a positive vote tomorrow and hopefully sign the agreement tomorrow at Sussex County Council meeting. So with that, that's it for the update. Back to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Mark. Again, as you all know by now, if anyone has any questions, you know, I'm not going to kind of stop us arbitrarily. Just raise your hand and I'll get you in. If anyone has any questions on the TID, on Mark's update, feel free to jump in. If not, we're going to just kind of keep moving. And obviously, even if we get to another section and there's something you wanted to talk about on a previous section, we can always back up and do that. But I'm not seeing any hands raised. That's not true. I see DJ. DJ, come on off of mute and jump in.
Question for Mark. Just curious as the fee structure that I saw in the TID, why it's based on land use and not just a straight fee based on trips. For example, the area-wide study fee that you currently pay in lieu of TIS is just based on trips, whereas this is based on units, different types of units, and then for non-residential, it gets even a little more complicated. So just wondering what was the thought process behind that.
So it is more or less based on trips. DJ, maybe.
DJ, go on mute while he's answering.
So it is based upon trips. So the TID structure fee is there's a base unit for the single family, and then the other residential units are based upon the percentage of trips that those uses generate in relation to a single family home. So for example, just to make math simple, if an apartment generated half as much traffic as a single family, then their fee is half of a single family. Similar in the the commercial trip generation is we have a range of uses based upon, you know, whether it's a convenience store, office, those types of things. So we have kind of ranges of trip generations per square foot, and then corresponding fees related to that. But it's not a absolute straight relation between trips and all the uses, but it's generally based upon that.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, thanks, Mark. Again, I don't see any other hand raised, so I'm going to move us along. And I'm going to introduce Shantae Hastings, who very soon will be the new Deputy Secretary for DelDOT, but we are not giving her up, so don't you worry. She is still going to be an integral part of our team and a great resource for us to talk about and present on a map of active projects and studies in the area. This is something that has come up quite a bit, and we thought it was a good time to give an overview of kind of everything in the 5 points area. So Shantae, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Good evening, everybody. And just to correct Andrew, I will be in an acting role as of November 1. And so similar to the process that Nicole described, if she is fortunate enough to be confirmed in next section, then I would move up officially to the Deputy Secretary role. But very excited to be with my friends from 5 Points tonight to talk about all of the projects and studies within the area. So we have created a map to show all that's going on. There are 26 total either projects or studies identified, 3 in construction, 12 in design, 2 planning studies underway, and another 9 projects programmed to start design in the 6-year range of the CTP. The map that you're about to see is located on the 5points.del.gov website. If you go to the October 26th working group meeting link, under there, you will see the meeting packet and you will see a separate PDF for the actual map. So Jeff, we can go ahead and get started with the map and get my notes together. All right, so I'm going to go through this. I'm going to go through all of the projects in construction, the projects in design, the planning studies, and then upcoming programmed projects. So first up, we have got the Bridge 3-154 project, which is the drawbridge on Savannah Road in Lewis. It's under construction. Expected completion should be at the end of this year. We also began construction recently on the Route 24 widening project from Mulberry Knoll Road to Route 1. So we'll be widening 24 to 2 lanes in each direction in that stretch. And it is expected to be complete in 2022. We also recently began construction on a traffic signal at the Kings Highway and Clay Road intersection. And that is supposed to be completed before next summer, so before summer of 2021. Moving to projects in design, the second piece of 24 from Love Creek to Mulberry Knoll Road is in design. We are actively pursuing right-of-way acquisition now, and it is scheduled to go to construction in 2021. From Mulberry Knoll to just past the 2 schools, we will be adding an additional lane in each direction on 24. And then beyond there, it will be some intersection improvements, shoulders, etc. Plantation Road Phase 1, which is from the Beaver Dam Road US 9 intersection to Robinsonville Road, that is also in design, and we are actively in right-of-way acquisition for that project as well. Construction is scheduled to begin in 2022. And throughout that stretch, there will be 2 lanes in the, I'll call it southbound direction of Plantation Road. There's a roundabout plan to replace the existing T intersection at Beaver Dam and some other great improvements for that project. We also are in design for the realignment of Old Orchard Road at West Coates Corner. That project is in design. We're not quite started with right-of-way acquisition yet, but that will be starting soon. And it is scheduled to go to construction in 2022. The SR1 minus Conway grade separated intersection. We just recently finished finalizing our right-of-way plans, and so we will begin right-of-way acquisition this fall/winter. That project is scheduled to begin construction in 2023. For Bridge 3-714 on New Road, that's the project where we will be raising the bridge to address some of the reoccurring flooding that happens, and obviously raising the road on either side of that for a stretch. So that project is in design. Right now, construction is scheduled to start in 2024, but it is dependent on the completion of the Old Orchard Road realignment project that I just spoke about. We've got the SR1 Cave Neck Road grade separated intersection project. It is currently in design. We're hoping to get right-of-way finalized in the next year or so, go through the acquisition process, and then begin construction. The second phase of Plantation Road from Robinsonville Road to Route 24, that is currently in design, but things are a little bit on hold. It actually is related to a planning study that I'm going to highlight in a few moments, and then Jeff Rigner is actually going to provide an even more detailed explanation in the next set of slides. So right now we don't have a construction schedule for Plantation Road until we figure out what the exact improvement needs to be. We have some interim crossover improvements at SR1 and Cave Neck. That's to basically lengthen the left turn lane on northbound Route 1 and to make some additional adjustments, as well as adding some additional lighting. And that should begin construction early in 2021. We have some crossover improvements at SR1 Nassau Road in Janus, as well as SR1 Tulip Drive and Slipper Shell Way. Those will begin design shortly, and we will see what the construction schedule is. It will likely be either next year or the following year. We've got sidewalks on Savannah Road that are in design, and we expect to go to construction in 2021 for them. We've got a shared use path along Munchie Branch Road. It's also in design, expected to start in 2021. Moving on to the planning studies. We have the Mulberry Knoll Road Extension Study, which has just recently gotten underway, and Jeff is going to give a more detailed update right after I'm done with the project updates. We also have the SR1 Low Stress Bikeways Study, and that is also underway and should be wrapped up in probably a year or so. And then we have a significant amount of planned programmed projects. So they're in the CTP to begin design, but they're not underway yet. And that would be the Kings Highway project from Dartmouth Drive to Freeman Highway. And it is related and directly tied to the master plan for Kings Highway. Design is expected to start next fiscal year, so basically July of 2021. We've got a widening project on US 9 from Ward Avenue to Old Vine Road, expected to also start design next summer. US 9 and Myers Conway intersection improvements, programmed to begin design in fiscal year 24. Although this intersection is being looked at as part of the Myers Conway grade separation project, because we know that there will be some impacts as we're building that project. And so we are looking at any temporary improvements that we may need to make as a result of that. We've got the Cave Neck, Hudson Road, and Sweetbriar Road intersection programmed to begin design in 2025. And we're going to give a little bit more of an update on that when we go through the implementation plan updates. New Road, Nassau Road to Old Orchard Road, that is programmed to begin design in fiscal year 25. And that's basically looking at shoulders, intersection improvements, et cetera, and pedestrian improvements like in PED. Got Old Landing Road and Airport Road intersection improvement and the extension of Airport Road. And that project is programmed to begin design also in FY 25. We have the intersection of Dairy Farm Road and Beaver Dam Road / Fisher Road. That's programmed to start design in 2025. I feel like a broken record. Old Landing Road and Warrington Road intersection improvement. That's also scheduled to start in 2025. We are looking at some early concepts for that and are hoping to do some public outreach sometime next spring, early summer on that project. And last but not least, we've got the Beaver Dam Road widening project from Route 1 to Dairy Farm Road. That is programmed to begin design in 2026. I know that was a lot to go through really quickly. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Shantae, by accident, we only heard the first project update you gave, so could you go through that one more time?
I'm going to kill you.
Just kidding. Thank you. I mean, obviously, a tremendous amount, excuse me, a tremendous amount of projects and effort being put into this area. Some of which starting soon, some of which starting another, excuse me, out years within the CTP, but certainly a lot going on. Let me see if we have any questions. I do see Bob Fisher. Bob, if you want to come off of mute and ask a question.
Yes, wonderful presentation, Shantae. You mentioned the one SR1 low stress bikeway study. A number of other projects you're doing, I know, have bike path improvements in them. What I would suggest is a separate slide with just the bike paths, you know, the major bike paths, and then on projects that have bike path content, you could show, for example, the Minos Conway grade separated intersection has very important bike paths that come over to the Georgetown Lewis Trail. And I think there's others where they're, as part of the roadway improvements, you're going to also improve the walking and bike paths. Is that correct? Would you agree that? And I don't know if John Fiore is in or somebody from the DBC, but that would be very helpful, I think, to them to see what, because I've been bragging about what the 5 Points Working Group has been doing to the DBC for several of their meetings. So, I mean, you see what I'm saying with that? Would you think, go ahead.
Certainly, I think that's a great idea. I think planning already has a great map of kind of the existing trails and future trails that we can make sure to add some of the studies that are shown here. And then we could probably take this map, Bob, and maybe put a bike symbol next to the projects that are doing, you know, off-road kind of shared use paths. Yeah, and that would meet the needs.
And DelDOT really deserves a lot of credit for all of the bike path improvements that you've been putting in place. I think bicyclists love you for sure. So.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. I was just going to add that, with our Complete Streets initiative, that virtually every project on this map will have some sort of bike pedestrian component and improvements with it. But we can kind of highlight the major trail projects, to help reinforce that.
Who knows, in the summertime when no traffic is moving, you might have people saying, I'm not going out except by bicycle. And so that's going to be the most important roadmap that they have with the bike paths. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, Bob, why don't you go on mute and I'm going to bring DJ on.
Hi, I just want to make one comment before a couple questions, but the lengthening the left turn lane on Route 1 at Cape Neck Road is a significant needed improvement. So thank you guys for moving forward with that next year. Also, Savannah Road, at one point, there was a two-way left turn lane study that was presented to the group. And now I see you're moving forward with the sidewalks construction. Is that to say that a decision's been made that the two-way left turn lane will not be constructed on Savannah Road, or is that still in the process of being evaluated?
Either Mark or Jeff Rigner, can you come off mute? I feel like they were in slightly different locations, CJ, but I could be wrong.
I can chime in on that, Shante.
Thank you.
What we determined is that there are a number of different efforts going on Savannah Road, and the Lewis Byway Committee decided that they were going to seek funding to undertake a master plan for this stretch of Savannah Road, which would consider any number of different potential improvements. Because of the time frame that it would take to prepare that master plan, the sidewalk project is going to continue to move forward, but the two-way left turn lane would definitely be considered as part of that master plan effort if they're successful in getting funding to move it forward.
So does that mean that the sidewalks will be designed in a location where if the two-way left turn lane moved forward, they wouldn't have to be relocated?
I don't know that answer for sure, DJ, because I'm not familiar with the details of the sidewalk project. Okay. Certainly the time frame for moving forward with a larger improvement to Savannah Road, if there's some type of widening or medians or anything like that that would come out of the master plan, would be many years out. So at the very least, there would be value to the sidewalks moving forward now.
Okay, I'm not sure who this question's for, if anybody from traffic is with us, but the signal at Kings and Clay, is it going to be coordinated with Kings and Gills Neck? I assume yes, but wanted to verify.
DJ, I'll get that answer to you. I would assume is the same as well, but I will confirm.
Okay. Yeah, just the concern is the queuing between the intersections there.
Yep.
And then I know several on this group were involved with a request between Nassau Bridge and 5 Points to maintain a crossover on southbound Route 1. There was a petition from some local residents and businesses. So just wondering if there's any update on the status of whether DelDOT may be able to maintain just a U-turn crossover on southbound Route 1 just north of 5 Points, so that everybody doesn't have to go through 5 Points to go back north.
Yep. So that request did make its way to us, CJ. We are taking a look at it. We didn't have any good traffic data at those crossovers. It just wasn't something that was contemplated. So our hope is to get some counts next spring and summer and kind of help that inform the decision as well as crash data. But we are looking into it.
Thank you.
And I guess the other thing that I should make note of is it's related to that. We are looking to make improvements to the southbound, I guess, leftmost left turn lane at the 5 Points intersection to actually be able to allow the U-turn movement. Right now it's prohibited. And so that is something that we're looking to potentially do in advance of even the Minus Conway project.
Great. Thanks, Shantae. Just a reminder, in this case, once your question has been asked, if you can lower your hand just to make it easier on me. Josh, you want to come on? You had something you wanted to add? Josh Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Yeah, I actually was just going to help out my fellow work group member, help out DJ. I think it would also help Jeff talking about the Savannah Road two-way left turn lane if we clarified that our previous effort was looking at restriping only. I don't know if unless that was said and I missed it, Jeff, that might help a little bit too when we talk about the previous effort was looking at whether we could just restripe it without any type of associated improvements. So the effort Jeff was talking about involves taking a look at the whole corridor and looking at whether more extensive improvements would need to be made. So I thought that would help for the good of the group.
Thanks, Josh. And just something I should have noted at the start of the meeting, all of this information that we're presenting tonight, the full packet of information will be on the 5 Points website, which is 5points.del.gov. It may not be up there right now, but it will be up there shortly, today, tomorrow, the following day. So you can review the map that Shantae went through. And obviously you can enlarge it and focus in on different areas and so forth. And if you ever have any questions, even though certainly these meetings are a great time to ask questions, you can always follow up with us in between meetings. So with that, I'm going to move us along as I don't see any other hands raised for questions. Again, thank you, Shantae, for all that information. And now we're going to go to Jeff Rigner. Jeff, if you could come on to give us a quick update on one of the projects that Shantae mentioned, but the Mulberry Knoll Road extension study.
Thanks, Andrew. Just as a reminder, the extension of Mulberry Knoll Road north to US 9 was a recommendation of two different studies. It was a recommendation of many of you as part of phase 1 of the 5 Points transportation study. It was also recommended as part of the Henlopen TID study that Mark mentioned earlier. So we are just getting started with this study. We started, I guess it was early September. So the work is going to include consideration of a couple things. Shantae mentioned that Plantation Road is directly parallel to this potential extension of Mulberry Knoll Road. So we want to make sure we understand how to get the best bang for the buck in making investments in this area. So that could consist of extending Mulberry Knoll Road. It could consist of widening Plantation Road in that south section, phase 2, between Robinsonville and Route 24, or it could require both. So our study will answer that question, as well as help us determine where the alignment of Mulberry Knoll Road should go, if in fact that's part of the solution. So we've just started now with an inventory and mapping of what's out there. So DelDOT, through consideration of the National Environmental Policy Act, requires that we look at all natural resources like wetlands and streams, as well as cultural resources like historic properties in the area of any potential improvements. And I just want to assure you, just because we're getting started now, we haven't yet had specific public meetings for this project, but public involvement will absolutely be a critical element of this study as it moves forward. So please keep your eyes open for that. And we will let all of you, both as the 5 Points Working Group, as well as all of the members of the public who receive regular 5 Points email updates, know when those meetings are going to occur. So just to show you where the area is that we're talking about, you will see on your lower right, and I believe you can probably see my pointer. That's existing Mulberry Knoll Road. So the intersection with Route 24 is just below the edge of the map here. Mulberry Knoll Road now ends at Cedar Grove Road at what we'll call its north end, its northwest end. And the TID study recommended considering an alternative that would extend Mulberry Knoll Road north to Route 9 in the vicinity of the signal at the vineyards. So that would cross Robinsonville Road and it would cross Beaver Dam Road on its way up to Route 9. So that area is pretty tightly constrained. There are existing developed areas that we will avoid. Jimtown is one of them, existing developments on either side. And we will look carefully at crossings of streams and wetland areas, as well as historic properties that will be identified to determine where that alignment is going to be. Now, the TID, if it is approved, in fact, if the agreement is signed, determined that developers may be contributing to all or part of this project. So the point of this effort is to determine where the alignment generally should go. And that way, either DelDOT or developers or a combination of the two can move forward with it. The other area that we're looking at is Plantation Road, and that's from Robinsonville Road here, south to Route 24, again, just off the map. And we may find that future traffic requires that both of these things happen, that Plantation Road be widened and that Mulberry Knoll Road be extended, or it could be one or the other. So we will definitely keep you posted about the progress of this study as it moves forward.
Great, thanks, Jeff. I don't see any hands raised, so I don't think we have any specific questions about Mulberry Knoll Road, which now that I'm saying out loud, I realize is a tongue twister. It's tough to say.
Yeah, no matter how much we've been working on it, it's still hard to say.
So why don't we keep going? Jeff, why don't you stay up? We're going to keep going into our phase 2 implementation plan update. And as all of you should know by now, this section of our working group meetings is really the engine that drives the entire working group process. We do, as part of it, like to provide other updates, as much information as we can do. But sort of our core part of our meetings is going through this in some detail, not too much detail, but providing updates on all of the recommendations that are in some that are worth sort of noting. So Jeff does that, does a great job at it. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff and give us this update.
Thanks, Andrew. As all of you probably recall, we had 78 recommendations come out of phase 1 of the 5 points transportation study. We do not give updates on all 78 of those recommendations at every meeting. We do give updates when a status of a recommendation changes, or in some cases, if there are remarks, if there's something that's in progress and we have a new update to provide you. We provide that in 2 places. It's part of today's presentation, and it's also part of the spreadsheet that we update as part of our packet that we send you. And I understand that that packet is actually on the website now. So as soon as we're done with the meeting, you're welcome to pull that up, take a look at it, and see details that we may not be able to cover as part of the meeting. So our previous status as of July.
Jeff, is that your dog barking?
It is.
Okay, well, no, that's good, because if it was someone else's, I was going to ask them to go on mute. But since it's yours, we will just continue. I think he likes the presentation.
He's a pretty smart dog because he didn't start barking until I took off mute. So, so just a little more than half of our projects as of July were in progress, ongoing, which means their typical activities of DelDOT or the county were completed. And we've added 1 to that list as of October. 2 of the recommendations that we promised would be initiated in 2020 will be started in the next couple months. The other 3 are already underway, and I'll give updates on those as we move forward. So category A is things that were addressed by current DelDOT projects and initiatives as of phase 1 of the study. There is no change in that category. In category B, we'll start with B3. Some of you may have noticed driving north and then heading back south to Sussex County, some changes to signage as you're approaching Thompsonville Road from the north on Route 1. Over the summer, DelDOT tested display of automated travel time information on 2 different signs approaching the beach area, which essentially showed this is the time to X location using Route 1, versus using Route 113. We went out to get photos of that just to be able to show you what that looked like, but it was just a test, so it was shut down by the time we got there. That is being moved from the test bed over to regular operation, and those displays will be back up and running in the long term starting next month. Gene Donaldson from Del.Dot Traffic will talk more about the Del.Dot app later on, but rest assured you can get information on those travel times through the Del.Dot app today, even before those signs are up and running in their full-time configuration. Next is B7, and that's TID studies. Mark already mentioned that 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Sussex County will consider approval of the Henlopen TID agreement. And we all hope, I guess, both on behalf of county staff and Del.Dot staff, that we have good news to share with you shortly. B21 is a recommendation about studying the frequency and causes of emergency vehicle preemption, or ways in which emergency vehicles disrupt signals to be able to pass more freely through the study area. Gene will talk far more about this than I ever could, but the vendor who's providing that information is working on updates to take advantage of this feature and make that situation work more smoothly. And that's it for category B. In category C, which is making the most of our existing roadway infrastructure, we do have one recommendation that has moved from our Initiate in 2020 list to being in progress, as well as some other updates. So category C, C1 is the corridor study on Route 9. Shantae already mentioned this, that projects programmed in the CTP and design is scheduled to start next fiscal year. Another one of Shantae's items is C3, which is the intersection of Old Landing and Warrington Roads. Design at that intersection is scheduled to start in that popular year she mentioned several times of 2025. And I'd like her to actually chime in on this item too. This is C5, the intersection of Cave Neck, Sweetbriar, and Hudson Roads. Design is currently scheduled to start in FY25, but there may be the potential to accelerate that project. And Shantae, could you speak a little bit about that, please?
Sure can. So on October the 6th at the Sussex County Council meeting, the County Administrator Todd Lawson introduced an idea, a program, if you will, called FAST, Funding Accelerating Safety and Transportation. And it would be the county's way of potentially accelerating projects that are already listed in the CTP in the what we like to call the out years. So the last 4, 5, 6 years of the CTP, trying to accelerate some of those projects that have a huge safety benefit, especially those that are under pressure because of upcoming developments. And so if council approves this program, this specific intersection was mentioned as a potential candidate to basically receive that funding. And the way the funding would work is that the county would provide Del.Dot with the design right-of-way and construction funding, and then we would reimburse the county, if you will, when the project is actually slated for funding in the CTP. So it's a way to bring the project forward, 4 or 5 years, and then have us replenish that funding when it's available in our CTP. So we're hopeful that this program gets approved so that we can accelerate important safety improvements in the area.
Hey guys, hey Jeff, I'm sorry. This is Senator Lopez. Shantae, thank you so much for saying that. And if I just want to make a brief comment, I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of County Council for even giving consideration and including this in just some thoughtful planning going forward. And I really am thankful because we have lots of little nooks in our Eastern Sussex County, coastal Sussex County locations, but this is one intersection where I really feel as though if we're going to put a little asterisk next to a spot and say, hey, this is going to be the first location we're going to do and implement a new project, I think there's going to be a lot of goodwill and a lot of good trust from the public in regards to this location being the first in this process. And if there are any ways in which, well, let me just say, I look forward to being helpful in that process. So thank you.
Thanks, Senator. I really do think this is a great potential opportunity for DelDOT and Sussex County to continue to strengthen their partnership and moving forward strategic projects as quickly as possible. So thank you, Senator, and thank you, Shante, for sharing about that. Our next project is now in progress thanks to your input, and that is studying the feasibility of lengthening left and right turn lanes. You gave us suggestions back in January. DelDOT Traffic is moving forward with evaluation of those, including such data collection as they've been able to do based on the pandemic, affecting that a bit, as well as field observations and such. So we look forward to sharing our progress with you as this moves forward. Another recommendation is C19, which was study the feasibility of an all-way stop at Beaver Dam and Kendall Roads. This, as we mentioned previously, was considered by the Henlopen TID study. The key element here is the curve at this location. So whether this becomes a traffic signal or some other type of traffic control or geometric improvement is going to depend on making sure that that curve can be negotiated safely and that sight distance to a signal or other traffic control device would be retained. So this is something that DelDOT Traffic is considering actively to determine what is the appropriate thing to do at this location. We are still working, DelDOT is still working on recommendation C20, which is replacing the Hawk signal at SR1 and Holland Glade Road with a full signal, with a potential with a fourth leg at the outlets. We're continuing, DelDOT's continuing to work with the developer. Planning's development coordination section is reviewing the plans and providing comments. And it's our hope to be able to reach a conclusion relatively shortly that we can share with all of you. So there's a lot to cover, of course, as always in this section. So Andrew, if you see any hands raised and there are any questions, happy to answer those at this point.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything, Jeff. So if someone does have a question, either raise your hand or again, this would be a good time just to come off mute and engage. So I don't see anything, Jeff. So why don't you keep going?
I'll soldier on. All right. So category D is walking, bicycling, and transit. We do have a project that's moved to complete. And that is studying the feasibility of signing in pavement markings for bicyclists turning left from Dartmouth Drive onto Route 1. This was a bike box that was under consideration at, and I don't remember exactly which meeting. It might have been the January 2020 meeting, where we talked about the potential for doing that. In further consultation and technical analysis, we determined that a bike box isn't feasible here. Bicyclists can today cross Route 1 with pedestrian signals. And when the Kings Highway CTP project moves forward, that does include this piece of Dartmouth Drive to Route 1, and further improvements could be considered at that point. So the feasibility study is complete. We determined that additional work is not feasible at this point, and we'll roll that into the Kings Highway project as it moves forward. D15, the next recommendation was looking for better opportunities for pedestrian crossings on Kings Highway and Freeman Highway. As most of you know, Freeman Highway is a facility of the Delaware River and Bay Authority, not of DelDOT, but although there's been significant discussion between DRBA and DelDOT, and those who have driven through here can confirm, but a couple project team members noted that the rectangular rapid flashing beacons that are in this photo are now operating where the trail crosses Freeman Highway just south of its intersection with Cape Henlopen Drive. If anyone could chime in and let us know, yes, you've seen it, we greatly appreciate that. Okay. So that's category D, and then category E is our big one. This is the new infrastructure projects, the big new roadway connections, interchanges, things like that. And our update here is about Mulberry Knoll Road, which we just described. So I won't go into that in any more detail, but that planning study is currently underway.
Yeah, Jeff, you went,
Hi, Bob.
you zipped right through D without asking if there are any questions. I don't know whether you noticed that or not, but
Go right ahead.
Can I be brief?
Please.
You know, we had a very serious study in large amounts of public comment on the future of the rail trail that's now the Georgetown, Lewis Georgetown walking and bike trail. And we voted not unanimously, pretty strongly that it would remain a bike trail. Does this group believe that that is like a Supreme Court precedent, and there'd be, I mean, never say never, but it's unlikely that that, for example, DelDOT invested quite a bit of money in that they would then say, well, we're our bad, we're going to make that a 4-lane highway between Georgetown and Lewis. And I'm actually trying to save future people a lot of time into continuing to look at that if there is a position on it now. If there's no position, then they'll have to look at that in the future. But I'm just asking that question.
Well, I'm sure Shantae will want to chime in on this, but there are continuing phases of the Georgetown to Lewis Trail moving into design and construction that are actually west of our study area. So one end is continuing the existing trail further west to Fisher Road, if I remember correctly, at Route 9. And another phase is going to be starting from Georgetown and working its way east. So DelDOT's clearly making significant investments in the trail as it moves forward. Shantae, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
I don't think so, Jeff, you covered it. Mark might want to talk a little bit more about the rest of the trail system, since that falls under the planning group. But, we're looking to, for all kinds of multimodal improvements, especially when you look at that east-west, the east-west corridors. So providing those, walking and biking facilities, but also handling the future vehicular traffic that we know is going to come.
Thank you.
Or thanks, Shantae. That I will say that we're continuing the Georgetown to Lewis Trail and building the additional segments, which will eventually go all the way to Georgetown. Regarding your specific comment about whether we are, turning that into a highway, I'm not sure I necessarily want to touch that, but there's absolutely no plans to do that right now. I don't think you could ever say never, because who knows, 100 years from now, things may be different. But for the foreseeable future, we are still working on finishing the trail and connecting to Georgetown.
Thank you, Shantae and Mark. Were there any other questions about specific recommendations that I went through?
Okay.
It's raised, Andrew.
Oh.
Okay.
I do just a kind of remind people of kind of our format for this. If you are a member of the public that has joined us, and again, we thank you for doing that and staying informed and observing our meeting. If you do have, if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, we're going to do that at the end of our meeting. So what you need to do is just in the Q&A box, just type your name and just say, you don't have to write in your comment. Just say, I have a comment or I have a question, and we'll come to you at the end of the meeting. We are going to continue with our agenda, taking questions and comments from the working group members throughout, but we will save the public portion of that until the end. We did get a couple questions through the Q&A. Just as a courtesy, I do want to respond to those. I'm going to ask Shantae Hastings to come back on and provide a response. But again, if the members of the public could wait till the end, that is when we will address your questions and or comments. Shantae?
Sure. So you want me to go through the two that are in there now, Andrew?
Yeah, I'll read them. I just wanted to get you on. So this is in response to kind of the projects that you were describing. And so the question was, when these projects are approved and contracted, do we insist that the contractor or DelDOT does the work at a time when traffic is at its least disruptive, such as nighttime or not on most weekends, or accelerated, or that they are accelerated during the winter? That's the first question.
Sure. So we put a ton of, I'll say, restrictions on our contractors in terms of work hours when it comes to areas that are, heavily traveled by everyone. And so all of the beach routes, we typically don't allow any, we have specific restrictions on when they can work on weekdays, on weekends. In some cases, they can't work at all. We have restrictions on holidays. Night work has to get approved by if there are residential communities adjacent to the roadway. So we can't always just shift to night work. And it does increase the costs of our projects as well. And then so in the beach area, we typically do a lot of work in the fall, winter, and early spring. But temperatures affect a lot of what we do in terms of paving. So there are some cases where we have to schedule the project. It basically can make it take longer when we're not working during the peak travel times, because you can't, pave in the middle of winter. But yes, we take all of those things into consideration as we're planning our projects. It's actually, most of those things are already baked into our specifications that go with our projects. And then we add additional project notes depending on the different locations. So we are very sensitive to try not to be very disruptive, but we also have to get the work done and don't want it to drag on for many years. So there's a balance there. But we do have a lot of restrictions in place to try and limit the traffic disruptions related to construction.
Great, Shantae. And the next question we had was, why were all the passing zones eliminated on Cave Neck Road from Milton to Route 1? Now, again, there's an assumption in that question, so maybe you can either confirm that did in fact happen, and then if it did, why did that take place?
So I don't know for 100% that happened, but what we do is we pull crash data along these corridors where there are passing zones. And if we have significant crash rates, then we have to eliminate some of the passing zones. And we also have to evaluate them for today's standards. So a lot of passing zones that you'll see in certain areas are very short. And so they actually don't meet the standard for the length of passing zones. But we should have your email info. And so I will follow up with you on a more detailed response once I can talk with our traffic folks.
Great. Thanks, Shantae. Last chance for any working group members to ask any questions of Jeff and the implementation plan update. I don't see any hands raised. We do want to move on to our featured presentation, but we would entertain another question if there was one, but I don't see any. So
I'll go ahead and wrap up the final here just to tell everyone what to expect for the next few months. As always, we continue working our recommendations and share our progress with you by the working group meetings and by the following 5 points email updates that occur each month. We don't have a working group meeting, so we'll be providing those in November or December. Mark on your calendar, we will be convening the working group on January 25th, 2020. Here's hoping 2021 is a much more normal year for all of us than 2020. And we will prepare our second annual report, which will describe updates in the 5 points area through the course of 2020. And we'll issue that in the spring. So you'll see the report, and we will be, I would imagine, having one of our normal annual public workshops associated with that.
And that first annual report was a bestseller. I mean, it was sold out early, so make sure you get your orders in early for that.
Well, the price was right, Andrew.
Yeah, I know. Okay, great, Jeff. Thank you. We are going to move on now. And again, just a reminder to the public, put your name and just say you have a comment or a question in the Q&A box, and we will come to you at the end. But right now we're going to go to Gene Donaldson. So Gene, if you could come on and unmute yourself and bring your video up, who is going to give us a presentation on traffic and ITS. This is something that, you know, through the many meetings we've had, we've touched on it on the periphery. We thought it was a good time to really go into a more detailed presentation about this area. I'm going to let Gene run through his presentation first before we take questions. So if you could just jot your questions down, maybe refer, make a note of what the slide is. We can always come back to that slide if you have a specific question on that. But I'm going to let Gene go through first, and then we'll come and do Q&A. So Gene, I'll turn it over to you. Gene, I'm not hearing you. If you come, I need you to come off mute if you're. Okay, we're having a little bit of technical trouble. I'm not hearing Gene. I see him off of mute, Jen, but I'm not hearing him. You have any thoughts? Oh, there's Gene. I see him now. We're halfway there. But Gene, say something. Nope, I'm not hearing you, Gene. Gene, is there any chance that your computer sound you turned off or on? Would that have maybe done anything? Oh, you just went back on mute. Still not hearing you, Gene. I don't know why. Why don't we, I see that Gail Van Gilder has her hand raised. So Gail, why don't you ask a question while we continue to try to get Gene. I can't see that, Gene. It's too small. What does that say? Hold on.
I'll text him the phone number, Andrew.
Okay, great. Gail, come off of mute and ask your question while we're waiting to go the old-fashioned way with Gene.
Okay. One was Old Orchard Road. When you talked about, thank you for putting the lights on the Cape on Freeman Highway bike crossing, but we also had talked about the safety problem at Old Orchard Road bike crossing, and I'd just like to make sure that doesn't get lost and that you are also looking at that. So, and you might not have an answer, but that's the question. And then I'm trying to make this quick because I don't want to delay Gene. And my other question is on the TID. I would like to have more information on how the developer contribution to the traffic improvements is calculated. You gave us a brief overview, which was interesting, but if you could send out more information, I think it's important that we all understand this going forward, because I'm sure that as projects come along, you know, this will be a big question, is how much are the developers going to contribute? And is it enough to do what needs to be done? And so that's kind of like where the rubber meets the road, I think, in terms of getting the transportation improvements done that we would like to see done. So more information on that would be helpful. And also the process at DelDOT, you said that there was kind of a sliding scale, you know, for the commercial projects. The residential projects sounded a little more concrete in terms of how you figure it, you know, based upon the number of residences and the trips per day. But again, if you could just get us more information so we're all on the same page as the TID moves forward, that would be very helpful.
So I think maybe, Gail, it's appropriate that after the TID is signed, that at the next working group meeting, we could have a presentation on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. And we captured, you know, I know our team captured your questions, Gail, and we thank you for that. Maybe instead of the expression being where the rubber meets the road, it's where the development meets the road. Maybe that's. And if you could lower your hand, Gail, just so it doesn't confuse me later on. Gene, do we have you on by phone at this point?
I can figure.
No, we don't. Shante, oh, Gene, is that you?
Yes, I'm in.
All right, great. We got you. So the floor is yours, Gene. If you want to, we will move your slides along. Just give us the indication of when to do that, and why don't you go ahead with your presentation.
All right, thank you. I'm getting used to this technology stuff. So what I'll be speaking about tonight is our integrated transportation management system, our transportation management program, just real quickly, and then to talk more about traffic signals. And so next slide, please. We have a very innovative transportation management system, but I try to simplify it, that we do three functions. It's control, monitoring, and information. And so we've, if you've used our app and so forth, we've built a very extensive monitoring system throughout the state, including cameras, detection, and a variety of other things, even monitoring flooding. This is an integrated system. It's integrated with transit and highway operations. You all are familiar, I hope, with the DelDOT app and the DelDOT website. So you can see most of the things I'll be talking about. Over the last 20 years, we've been building a robust fiber and wireless network. It takes a lot of telecommunications to support this system. And at the core of it all is the statewide computerized signal system, which I'll talk more about. Next slide, please. In 2017, we updated the 1997 strategic integrated transportation management strategic plan. And it says keep doing what we've been doing, but also start to look at connected and automated vehicles, and which I'll talk about some tonight, is the using artificial intelligence to improve how our systems operate. Next slide, please. One thing we do is, as part of my section, is when I first came to DelDOT 23 years ago, and I looked at how transportation management was being done and so forth, and looked at all the planning, which is excellent, but I needed it at a level that is more operations oriented. So we started creating what we call the Transportation Operations Management Plan. And we have one for each of the three counties. The Sussex County plan, you can find it at that web address there, was updated in 2017. We work closely with planning, and we've agreed that these plans should be done on a more frequent basis. So we'll do one plan, update one plan each year. So basically every 3 years you'll have a new plan. Next slide, please. At the core and the heart and where I'm sitting, I was going to do my presentations with showing the TMC room, which is right out my window. But it was so noisy in the room that you wouldn't have been able to hear me. So when COVID goes away and we're more settled in, then we invite any of you to come visit the TMC. It is a single point of contact for statewide transportation management and operations. We're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and even through COVID, knock on wood, we've been continuously operating. Next slide. Travel times was mentioned earlier, and we have a variety of ways. We have built a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi now system that gives us excellent travel time. We've been testing it, and we're within 1 minute of Google. And so we continue to expand that Bluetooth travel time system. We also have sensors. We work with Maryland, and we put sensors over on Route 50 and 404 coming to Delaware. And so you can actually get travel times from the Bay Bridge to wherever you're going. This helps for planning purposes and real-time operations. We have travel times are on the DelDOT app. our Del.Dot Web, or we call the Del.Dot Interactive Map. Electronic message signs were just talked about. We are enhancing the sign control system to allow us to put travel times on any one of our bearable message signs. We did have 2 signs that were operational and testing, as we said, this summer. And also, if you go on our website or on the app, you'll see an electronic version of that. And it's operating real time right now. So you can see the travel time from the split at 113 and Route 1 in Milford, from there to Ocean City by taking 113 or by taking Route 1. And so that's continuously updating, and it is available on our app. We also, as some of you may be familiar with, have WTMC 1380 AM, and up north we now added 98.5. During the summertime, the staff in the TMC is putting out delay information for the beach routes. Next slide. At the core of all of this is our computerized signal system. Operated 24 hours a day from the Transportation Management Center, and that center's near Smyrna. You can see the big building coming down Route 1. As of a milestone was, as of January 2020, after a 20-year march, we have now put all the traffic signal, about 1,000 signals we maintain, all of those are now on the central system, and they can be controlled and monitored from here. So there's 3 types of traffic signal operation. There's isolated intersections that are fully actuated detectors on all the signalized movements. They're not running with other intersections, but all of those are still connected to the computerized signal system. And then a good portion of our signals are in coordinated groups or zones, we call it. They run semi-actuated with detectors working on the left turn signals and on the side streets and so forth. The main street, in this case, where we're talking about Route 1 in the Rehoboth-Lewis area, then Route 1 is running non-actuated, and its length of time is being controlled by the central computer. And then there's manual operation. So let's go to the next slide, please. So in the coordinated zones, we divide that up as every traffic signal in a coordinated system is operating a cycle length, which is, I'll get into a little more in traffic responsive. Offset is the relationship between the signals. That's the coordination part. So say an intersection is and another A and B, and then it's 10 seconds between them, travel speed. So the offset, we try to make 10 seconds. The splits, that cycle length is divided into splits. So each of the phased movements gets a percentage of the cycle length. And inside of that split is the green time, the yellow time, and the all red time. And then we have time of day operations. That's where we have certain corridors that we haven't got all the system detectors, which I'll talk about next, operational. So we're running those corridors like in the old days by time of day. So at rush hour, it's 6 in the morning until 9, then it's running a rush hour pattern and so on. Traffic responsive is where we want all of our zones in the state, and we are working on that. To do that, we installed system detectors, we call them. As you can see where the yellow circle is, if you drive through a signalized intersection and just as you go through it a little ways, you'll see saw cuts in the roadway with epoxy. It looks like epoxy in it. They're 6 by 6. Those are system detectors. They're not they're tied to the local signal controller, but the local signal controller does not use that information to operate. The information is sent to the central computer up here in Smyrna, and uses that data to adjust the cycle lengths in the traffic responsive mode we're talking about. So we have tons of those detectors throughout the state, and that's what helps us. And so the the system is adapting to actual traffic demand. Manual operation is important. So if there's a wreck or a construction down on Route 1, an incident of some sort, then we can manually control any of the intersections. We can control the cycle length. We can control all of those values from the TMC, which we're doing that all day long throughout the state wherever there's an incident going on. Next slide, please. And so in the Lewis, Rehoboth, Dewey Beach areas, we've divided that up into 2 zones. So from 5 Points to Bay Vista Road is Zone 20, and it's running traffic responsive. Its cycle lengths are 90, 120, 150, 165. And we operate inbound, which is southbound balanced, and outbound, which is northbound. In Dewey, it's Zone 19. It's from Spring Lake Drive through Collins Street. It's operating the same cycle lengths. In fact, this summer, you remember there was a lot of construction going on in Dewey. We lost a lot of detectors. So this system is really beneficial in that we just moved all those intersections to Zone 20. And so it was using the system detectors along the corridor for Zone 20, which would be similar traffic that's in Dewey. So that's one of the powers of having a central control system. We can adjust most anything. And so next slide, please. All right, signal operation timing impacts. I'm putting a list of things which we'll probably get questions about and so forth. Demand versus capacity is our business. One thing I say to people is we all want to leave our subdivision and go up to the signal at the end of our street and have it change right away for us. And then when we turn out on the arterial or the main road, we want all of those signals to be green for us, and the heck with everybody else coming out. Well, we can't do that. And so we have to balance how these systems operate. So, but our business, our transportation business is demand versus capacity, which you'll hear about in these meetings all the time. Signal timings do not add capacity. The capacity is controlled by the design of the intersection. And then that is how much traffic can it handle. And that's the demand side. Number of signalized movements, phases in a signal impacts the signal timing because you have more clearances and so forth. Once a signalized intersection is over capacity, really what we're doing is assigning delay, percentage of delay to each of the movements. So we make decisions of where we're going to balance that delay in an overcapacity intersection. I want to make sure everybody understands increasing the cycle length does not add capacity. And in fact, above 120, 150 seconds, what you'll see with a long green time is bigger gaps between the cars as to think of a train getting started. And then so as you get longer into that cycle, in that split, then there's more gaps. So the longer the cycle length, after 150, I would say, starts, you got to watch for that. Next slide, please. Other signal timing impacts, pedestrian signal timing. And this is the part I want people to understand. And designers in DelDOT and everything else is, an example is for us, for to cross a roadway like Route 1 in the area we're talking about, that's about 120 feet wide. And so for a pedestrian to cross that, we have to allow 7 seconds of walk to get them going. And then from curb to curb, it's about 40 seconds plus a yellow and red clearance in there. So about 47 seconds. The amount of cars using the side street, in this example, Camelot, is probably 4, 5, 6 cars lined up. And so 6 cars is probably about 20 seconds. To do the PEDs is 47 seconds. So if you do what I refer to as vehicle equivalence, where you take that time of 47 seconds and turn it into vehicle equivalence. So it's equivalent to about 20 vehicles per lane. Multiply that by the cycles, 150 seconds, that's 24 cycles. So that's 500 and some vehicles equivalent that we're timing for, but they're not there because of the PED timings. And so we've looked at a variety of things. What we try to do at wide intersections is take you halfway and take the PEDs the next halfway. And so, but there's not the width. We need a wider intersection, a wider median to be safe and so on. So level of service is what we in our business are rating the capacity or delay at an intersection. A level of service D intersection, if we didn't have PEDs going all the way across, it would be level of service D in the peak periods, which would be very minor delay and most likely one cycle you get through. But once the PED button is pushed, then it goes to a level of service F intersection, a failed intersection where it could take you one or more cycles to get through. Next slide. The other thing is signal coordination. We get a lot of questions why I get stopped and so forth. And so the things to watch, especially with actuated signals, is that say at Camelot, where I said if the PEDs don't push the button and there's only a few cars on the side street, you're going to get what we refer to as an early green. And so you're starting up earlier than the coordination would really want to do it. It looks prettier in big cities, DC and other places, even in Wilmington. Most of the signals in big cities are running fixed time, meaning every phase of a cycle is going to run the same time during that cycle, even if there's no cars or PEDs there or whatever. So it makes the coordination look what I call prettier. The diagram on the right is what we refer to as the time-space diagram. And you can see it's forming an X. And so when you leave one intersection, if the spacing is perfect, like you see me saying intersection spacing impacts coordination, then you could make it so that the speed, the angle is by speed between those points, that your goal would be to do this X and everybody gets a green. That's not really going to happen just because of intersection spacing and a variety of other things. When we're running a directional pattern, so Friday nights or in the evenings, even in the morning sometimes, we're inbound traffic going inbound towards Rehoboth. And so majority of the traffic's going that way. We favor the progression that way. And so if you're going the opposite direction, northbound, you will not get through every traffic signal. It's just, we can't do that. And so when everybody's leaving the beach, then it's the opposite. And so if you're going, the hardest thing to do is balanced, where you're trying to move them in both directions. You got equal type of traffic in both directions. You're not going to make it all the way. There's going to be stops for each direction. So we do our best, and I think most of you know, I drive that road almost every day. I live in Fenwick to come here to Smyrna. And so the other thing that impacts signal operations is emergency signal preemption. That's when you see the fire engine or the ambulance coming and that there's a light, the white light that's really blinking fast. There's sensors at the traffic signal controllers that are picking that up. And once it sees it, and we're running coordination mode, it sees that each intersection sees that light. It goes into a pre-operation and what we call preemption, where it's timing a special, it's holding, it gets to the movement of the direction the fire engine's going and holds that until they're through the intersection. Once they're through, then everything has to get in step, we call it. Everything in every signal in the state is actually coordinated to the central computer. So in theory, if you did the math, we can coordinate a signal in the northern part of the state and with a signal in Fenwick Island if you could drive the speed and everything else. So that's a great benefit for having a central system because of how you're referencing coordination. So we can switch coordination easy. But what happens once it preempts, then it has to get, like I'm calling it, get that intersection and the others go through back in step with the central computer, and it depends on how we're holding that. It was mentioned earlier, we're working with Siemens, who is our supplier of our signal controllers that are at the intersection, and they are the supplier of Tactics, which is our central computerized signal system. They, because of us working with them, they're trying to come up with a firmware that goes in the local controller and some work here at the central that we tested late May, early June, and we found issues with the firmware where it wasn't working properly. They've updated that firmware, but then we were into COVID and busy beach season. We did not want to mess with the controllers at that time. We will be testing that software here over the next few months because traffic's died down and we can get to that work. So we will continue to work on how the individual signals operates with the system. Next slide, please. So we're at AI, ITMS, artificial intelligence is what we're applying. This is what I'm really interested in. This is the next big phase of how we run this system or operate the system. With artificial intelligence, machine learning, machine vision, and so forth, our goal is to build a truly predictive and adaptive system, transportation management system, where it's watching for the problems, it is predicting ahead when you're going to have a problem, and it is adjusting traffic signals and other devices to be in front of that. And so that work has begun. It was part of a grant we competed for and won. And so it's a 3-year project. And so this system will monitor everything. And what I try to explain, we're talking to thousands of things, literally thousands of things out there on the system. There is no human being sitting in this TMC, myself or anybody, can keep up with all of that. So AI is really going to help our people to focus on the real problems. When Federal Highway came to me about this, they said, well, it would advise the operator to do something. I said, I don't want that. We want to build it so it actually does something and still advises the operator. So this is the big next step. We can probably go to the next slide, please. To implement the technology, we decided to build in 3 areas as shown on the map. And so in the northern part of the state, of course, 95 plus the major arterials of 40 and 13 and so forth. That area there is where we'll put in all the new technology and so forth. In the Smyrna to Dover area, we're located in Smyrna, so we're building a test bed along Route 13 and Route 1 for all the new technology. And because like myself and my staff and others are driving in and up and down that all the time, it helps us to better understand the system. And then the beaches or the rural routes, we're calling them 113 and Route 1, but all of that beach traffic, which varies dramatically, as you know, is we're going to and will be applying all the latest technology tied to AI, And that area will be one of the first areas we're implementing. And I believe we can go to the next slide. And so I'm going to end there. And just to show you a little bit, there's the young guy there was me in 1980. And some of you may recognize that computer, which is fits in the palm of your hand now, but that's an Osborne computer tied to an acoustical coupler. And I was dialed into a central system and had a 5-inch screen on it. And then we've advanced to the app, the in-vehicle stuff, and now we're testing connected vehicle. We're applying connected vehicle technology into some of our state vehicles to test it. And the image you see there at the bottom left is you can see the image, it's saying the signal's green, you can hardly see it, but if you look down at the signals, they're green also. And the other big project we're working on for connected vehicles is automated shuttles. We have 2 of them. I'll be finishing testing of them this week, even tomorrow, I believe. We'll be testing them again. And so we, Delaware and DelDOT, are working on the latest technology, and we'll apply it when it's ready to do so. I'm going to stop there, and any questions, thank you.
Thanks, Gene, so much. That was very, very informative. A couple quick things before I go into get some questions from our working group members. First of all, I did notice that Doug Hudson did join us a while ago. I just didn't get a chance to mention that. He is one of our working group members, and he did join us. In terms of public comment, again, I've been directing everyone to put your name and just say, I have a comment or a question in the Q&A, but I was told that there may be some people, some of our attendees, the public, that are having trouble with the Q&A. So if you do wish to be unmuted and make a short 1 minute or so public comment, I need you to email Jennifer Sinelli at Jennifer with 2 N's, Jennifer with 2 N's, .Sinelli, which is CINELLI at Delaware.gov. And just email her and say that you would like to make a comment or a question, and we will get to you at the end. So with that, and Gail, I see your hands raised, but I think you just never lowered it from the beginning. So I don't believe you have a new question, but we will open up to the working group members. Again, try to be quick with your questions or comments for Gene so we can get as many in as we can. And Bob, I know you were looking forward to this presentation. I had no doubt your hand would be the first one raised. So fire away with a quick question or a quick comment.
Thank you very much. And Gene, that was a great presentation, and it was kind of part 2 of what you showed me when I visited you at the TMC about 7 years ago. And I know you've made great progress since then. I congratulate you for that. My expertise is in sensing modalities, and I've been asking about what DelDOT is looking at. I appreciate the AI and all that you've talked about, but I've had a vision that you wouldn't need to use road-based sensing modalities. You could maybe use image processing of camera inputs. Let's not forget that we have breast imaging for ladies today because of the National Reconnaissance Office efforts in space, in imaging from space and automated processing. And that's an unclassified factor. I wouldn't have said it here. So, whether it's synthetic aperture radar or LiDAR or other things, and you're already doing determination. And the question I'm asking is, when will you actually be able to know where vehicles are in real time? And for example, what is the queue length at every intersection when a light turns from red to green? How many vehicles have to get through there on one cycle? And I know that you can do that with your loops and things in certain places, but not everywhere. But so that's my question about, I didn't see anything in your presentation about new sensing technologies to determine in real time where the demand is on the highways.
Bob, you're right on the money. We are testing, you heard me mention in the AI, machine vision. And that's what you're talking about. And so our goal is we're going to transition from the loop detector and we're already testing the technology. And that, because we do a pretty good job as DelDOT in maintaining our roadways, and every time we mill a roadway, all of my detectors go bye-bye. And so we are, I've been very interested in machine vision for a long time. We are testing technology. We have a setup right on 13 outside of our building with 2 portable cameras that the machine vision not only is counting the cars, but it's identifying make and model, which is unreal. It is, the software has gotten so good is that it's making the, so all the things you're talking about, using LiDAR, a variety of technology, will be able to count bicycles, watch bicycles, peds, vehicles, and so on. We are definitely working on that, and we'll integrate it as the technology becomes available.
I think that's great, and my offer stands. I work for free. Any work that you want to send my way as a consultant will cost you $0 except my time to look at it and get it back to you for your review. So if you don't send it to me, I'll just have to play more golf. But thanks anyway.
Okay, any other questions or comments on Gene's presentation or on any part of our meeting tonight that you might have from the working group? I know that, and again, I see, Gail, your hand's raised, but again, I think that was left over from earlier. So I'm not coming to you, but if you do have a new question, please come on and just let me know. But I know that this format is more difficult to kind of get a more organic discussion. But any other questions or comments from any of our working group members? Or from any of our team members? Okay. So why don't we now, that kind of completes the formal part of our agenda. I will go to public comment, but again, Jen, have you received any emails from anyone wanting to make a public comment?
Yes.
You have?
Yes, Andrew, I have.
Okay.
I have one from Mr. and I had their name here. Mr. and Mrs. Cross. Is the pink route that was on the map for Mulberry Knoll the same as the yellow route for the Western Parkway? I was told that it was not going to be used because it would come right through my property. We would lose our entire residence if so.
Jeff, I'm going to look to you to scroll back up. So Mr. and Mrs. Cross, just give us a second. I think we're going to go back up to that part of the presentation, and then I'll have Jeff Rigner come on and respond. So Jen, I just want to be precise with the question. Can you read that again?
Sure. Is the pink route that was on the map for Mulberry Knoll the same as the yellow route for the Western Parkway? I was told it was not going to be used because it would come right through my property. We would lose our entire residence if so.
Jeff, you may need to, in your response, I'm sure you're going to do this, but just to help people understand what they're referring to when they say the Western Parkway.
Sure. And I don't recall the exact year, but I'm guessing it was around 2007 or so. DelDOT undertook a study to look at a 4-lane roadway that would have gone west of and parallel to Plantation Road. I do not recall exactly what the yellow route was. There were a number of different options that were considered before that project did not proceed. All I can say is the area that we're considering in the dashed pink oval, if you will, is fairly wide, and that is not going to be entirely impacted by the project. It would simply be the width of the roadway, and we haven't yet determined what that alignment is going to be. All I would encourage you to do is stay subscribed to the following 5 Points updates. You will see information about when we will be presenting on at a public meeting about this project. Don't have an exact time frame yet, but it will likely be sometime over the winter or spring. so that you will have ample opportunity to see anything that's being considered and provide input before any decisions are made.
And I'll just add one other thing that, and Jeff, you touched on this when you provided your implementation plan update on everything, but this did come out of one of the 5 points working group in phase 1 recommendations, and this is in the yellow category, which is the longer term type study. So this is, we make a lot of progress within the 5 points working group and study with some shorter term type efforts that we can turn around and really give rapid progress updates to. This Mulberry Knoll Road extension, this is more of a longer term study that's going to have to really go through a lot of public outreach. So Mr. and Mrs. Cross, you are certainly, the reason we do this is to make people aware of everything, and we're glad that you are now aware and that you can be part of that process, and we will give updates, but you can certainly follow up and stay as involved as you can. So thank you for that question. Jen, were there any others, or was there anyone who just simply said they wanted to make a comment?
I don't have anyone else in the email, but there are a couple from one from Diana and one from Teresa in the Q&A.
Yeah, I see that. So I'm going to there were a couple questions that came in through the Q&A. So I'm going to go to that right now. And again, I don't know who the best person is to respond to this, but the first one from Diana O'Hagan is, what type of traffic signal operation is used at 5 points? Gene, are you still on by phone, or can we making sure we can still hear you?
I'm on.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard that, but what type of traffic signal operation is used at 5 points?
It's part of the Zone 20. It's a critical intersection. It's semi-actuated. It's coordinated with the other signals in Zone 20. So it's semi-actuated. So on the side streets or Route 9, there's detectors in the left turns. Both on north and southbound, there's detectors. Those are the actuated movements. Delaware 1 is not actuated. Its overall time is controlled like the rest of them from the central computer. But that is the most efficient way to run it.
Okay, thanks, Gene. And there's a question from Teresa Baldwin. Will it be possible for a pedestrian to cross Route 1 from the Lewis Park and Ride, and what will that look like?
So Andrew, I unmuted myself. We don't have a plan at this time to have a pedestrian crossing at the Park and Ride, but it is being looked at as part of a few different studies. And I think Jen might be able to speak about, I think there was a recommendation kind of related to this. And so we are kicking off a study to figure out where best to cross PEDs and how to do that. Is it at some type of signalized intersection? Is it a pedestrian bridge? Or is it at an adjacent intersection where it may not be as convenient to get directly across, but from when you're balancing all of what Gene talked about with trying to have good travel times along Route 1, as well as balancing those PEDs, they may have to be pushed to a different intersection.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shantae. Okay, well,
I think you skipped one.
Did I? Okay.
There was a question about why are there no passing zones along the length of New Road or Old Orchard Road? The speed limit is a low 35 miles per hour. So I would have to talk directly with our traffic folks about this, whether or not they've analyzed it. I can say, just looking quickly at the aerial map, at least along New Road, one of the challenges that we would have with passing zones is because you have so many entrances for neighborhoods. And so that's one of the things that we look at when you're doing a passing zone. You want to make sure that people can pass within a safe area, provide the appropriate distance, and not have to make other decisions like, is someone going to pull out of a development? But I can ask my team if they've actually taken a look at it and get back to you specifically.
Great. And again, to another question we had, and I think we may have said this, but just to repeat, all the information from tonight is now on the 5 Points website. So if there's something you want to follow up in more detail, you can go there. But with that, Jeff, if you could go to the last, to our last slide, I'm going to just wrap us up. Okay, so again, thank you to all the members of the public who joined us tonight. I hope you found all this information helpful and informative. Thank you to the working group members who joined us. This whole process is a result of your effort and your commitment, and we thank you for that. We will get out meeting minutes to all of you at some point here going forward. We will have our email updates that come in November and December. We will get those out to you. You can see that our next scheduled meeting is January 25th, which if I'm right with the schedule, I think that should be right after the Steelers win the AFC Championship, but right before they win the Super Bowl. So I think I have my dates right there. So Monday, January 25th will be the next date. I mean, at this point, I think we have to assume we'll probably be on virtually like we are right now. Once it's safe and once everyone has signed off on it, it is our plan to meet in person again, but we are going to let the powers that be decide that when that is, and at this point, I would think we would still be virtual come Monday, January 25th. So I don't know if any of our other team members, Josh, I saw you came on camera. I don't know if you have something you want to say or if you were just coming on, but if there's anything from any of our team members, we're gonna wrap up the meeting and close it out. So anything from anyone else?
No, Andrew, I just came on just so I figured, nice to see each other's faces as we intro and wrap up. That's all.
All right, great.
Yep. No, thank you, everyone. I know it's easy for me to say, obviously, being inside DelDOT, but as the representative on the working group, I just want to thank the project team for everything that you guys do to make this happen, and for all the information that we provide together for the public. I know I can see all the work you guys do day to day, so thank you.
And I will close with one thing, which is as much as we are looking forward to having Knoll Majeski, who we heard from earlier, come on board at some point in the acting role. And we do want to thank outgoing Secretary Jennifer Cohen for all of her efforts in pulling this together and really being the driving force behind this 5 Points working group effort and her commitment to that. So I do want to thank her on behalf of the team for all she did for this effort. So with that,
and Andrew and Todd Lawson too.
Absolutely.
Just for making this, staying with us every step of the way.
But Todd's not leaving us. Todd's not leaving us, so I just want to make sure.
Oh no, I got you. Yep, I got you. Just wanted to point out that Todd was with us as we started this off. So.
Absolutely. I mean, the relationship between DelDOT and Sussex County and the effort that Sussex County, the partnering that they've done has been tremendous. So absolutely, that's a great point, Josh. So with that, we thank everyone and enjoy the rest of your night. And we'll be back in touch with our next email update at the end of November. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.